Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm Petra and I'm going solo today.
Hi, we're Josh and Petra, early retirees traveling the world slowly while sharing honest insights about retirement and life on the road. Join us and share in the journey.
Today I wanted to talk to you about travel insurance. Single trip versus annual travel insurance plans. And most travelers can get this wrong. We're going to try to talk about this simply because if you pick wrong, like we almost did, you could be left uncovered for long-term trips. So in this video, we're going to break down single trip versus annual travel insurance and which ones really make sense for the type of travel that you're going to do. Because again, if you get it wrong, it could cost you thousands of dollars or even end your trip. So to put it simply, when you're looking at travel insurance, a single trip is one trip. An annual insurance plan is multiple trips within that year. So single trip insurance covers one continuous trip from the day you leave till the day you come back. Annual insurance covers multiple trips over a year, but there's a catch. And this catch is where most people mess up. So let's go ahead and try to make this clear. Annual insurance is best for frequent travelers, business trips, weekend getaways, and multiple short trips per year. Whereas single trip insurance is best for people that are doing long-term travel, slow travel, retirement travel, or one big trip. So you want to think about frequency versus duration. Annual equals frequency. Single trip is long. This is where it gets tricky. Annual plans often look cheaper, and sometimes they are, but only if you're taking multiple short trips. And if you think about it, whenever you go and you're booking a trip, whether it's your flight or with a tour company, they'll offer you insurance that covers that specific trip. But then if you look at that price, and if let's say you are traveling 4-5 times a year, if you were to take that price and kind of multiply it by 4 or 5, is that more expensive than buying an annual insurance plan, or is it cheaper? This is where the annual plans can often look cheaper. But again, it's because you're taking multiple short trips where it can be helpful. But if you're taking one long trip, an annual insurance plan can actually leave you underinsured. And that cheap plan can become very expensive if something goes wrong. Here's what you might miss with the wrong policy. You're looking at trip cancellation coverage, full medical coverage, duration, emergency evacuation protection, especially if your trip goes beyond the allotted time frame. So those coverage gaps are where the problems happen. So let's take and kind of make this real. So let's say you leave out of the United States for a 6-month trip. You buy the annual plan thinking you're covered. Well, after 60 days, because let's say your policy is for 60 days, even though it's an annual plan, it only covers you for 60 days. So after that 60 days, you're on your own. So if something happens on day 75, you could be paying for that out of pocket. For our situation, early retirement and long travel, we chose a single trip long-term policy. I was under the assumption, like many other people, that because I was going to be gone for a long trip, I needed an annual policy. And when I started looking at the websites, I realized in the annual policy, no matter what company I was looking at, they all had certain number of days that it covered, 60, 90 days. When I contacted the company, I said, this is what I'm looking for. I'm not for sure if you have an insurance plan that will cover what I need. And when the gentleman told me that because I was going to be gone, even though it was for 9 months, it was in one continuous trip, a single trip insurance plan is what I needed. And I have to tell you, my mind was like, right? But then it made sense. He said it's a single trip. It starts from the time you leave the country, or the time that you're traveling, until you come back into the country. Whoa, that was phenomenal. So what that does is that single trip, even though it's long term, it gives us continuous coverage, flexibility, and it gives us peace of mind. It may not necessarily be the cheapest, but really it was the safest because it gives us continual coverage. Whereas when I was looking at the annual, even though the annual plan gave us coverage for a year of short-term travel, the total amount time coverage was 90 days within that year. So if you are going on 5 trips, let's say within a year, as long as your days don't go over 90 that you're traveling, you're covered. Now again, each insurance company is different, so you need to make sure you're looking at their terms and conditions, because some might be 60, some might be 20, some might be 100 and 120, or 90 or whatever, because they're all different. So if you are looking at your different options, remember, some of the things to take away from this video is if you are taking multiple short trips throughout the year, this is where you want annual coverage. If you're going to be taking a long single trip, this is where you want single insurance coverage, right? Now, when I called this company, I asked, I am going to different locations, but all within this time frame. I'm leaving the US and I'm coming back 9 months later. I'm going to multiple locations. Is that covered? And the answer was yes, because it is not about necessarily what countries you are covering or the miles that you're going within that time frame. It's about when you leave the US and when you come back to the US. This is considering you're using a US company, right? So remember that multiple short trips are for an annual plan, one long trip, single trip insurance. And by understanding that, it will save you a lot of stress later on. So choosing the travel insurance isn't really about what is the cheapest one. Of course, we all want to get a good deal, but it's about choosing the right protection for what you need. And I would recommend looking at several companies. When I was checking them out, I checked 3 different plans and the prices varied. One company quoted me $6,000 for the 9 months. Another company quoted me $4,000. Again, this is for 4-month pricing. And then the third company really quoted it by monthly, and for Josh and I, it was $322 a month. But if you take that times 9 months, you'll get that price. We end up choosing that plan because it also coupled health insurance besides the travel insurance. That just happened to be what we call the SafetyWing, and it's their Nomad policy. And we can talk more about that insurance company and that policy specifically in a later video. But again, you're not necessarily going for the cheapest, but what is right for you. Because when you get it right, then you can focus on what your experience is while you're traveling and not necessarily the risk of the wrong insurance. So if you are planning to retire early and travel the world like we are, please consider subscribing to our channel, giving a thumbs up on the video. Let us know in the comments if you've had similar situations where when choosing your annual versus a single trip plan, you can even, whatever might be helpful to us or even the viewers that are watching. So we would absolutely love it if you would join our journey as we continue on our slow travel lifestyle. And as always, we will see you in the post. Have a good day.